Let's talk about missions in the Star Citizen. I'm a little late on this one. This Inside Star Citizen came out about 4 days ago, and I actually haven't seen any spoilers, so I'm guessing nothing major was announced, but I've got a lot to say on missions. I'm not going to waste your time now. You know, I'll interrupt the video and all that stuff, but missions I think are super important because they are the best way to introduce people to gameplay that Star Citizen adds, which Star Citizen is not good at doing. Like, there are a lot of options in Star Citizen you don't really know about until you're forced to do it. I think tractor beams and Xenothreat were the best example of that. So I'm excited to see how they approach missions and what they do with them to try and introduce us to more parts of the game, and also hopefully how modular they can make them so that investigation missions can be combined with bounty missions, can be combined with exploration missions, and so on and so forth. So let's see what they say and then interrupt them when we have something good to say. Thanks for coming. Hope you enjoyed this. Feel free to subscribe if you like this kind of content, checking out Star Citizen, and let's get into it.
Hey, before we get on to the normal business of Inside Star Citizen this week, we wanted to take a moment and recognize and acknowledge what's currently happening with the live game.
We want to take a moment. We will all look back on this week, just like we looked back on the 3.0 launch. Oh my gosh.
Play experience. Obviously, anyone that's been following the project for any period of time knows that running a live gameplay environment throughout the process of development is an unusual, sometimes trying, but often rewarding experience.
And painful.
But it's not just the tremendous work of our developers that make this possible. It's also the continuing commitment of you, our players, that allow us to test things at scale. Because it's often easy to forget that with the hype and excitement of a new release, that every level of Star Citizen is a development and testing platform, even the live alpha.
I'm going to have a Citizen Central episode this month about this. It'll release probably around a week after this does, but we'll be live this week. There's a lot of discourse surrounding this idea of this being a game in testing and alpha, a actual environment for testing this stuff, and also marketed as a game that you should come in and play and enjoy and progress in and all that jazz. Those are two competing messages that are both kind of true. So I thought we should have a show where we talk about that, bring on a few creators, and have a little debate. Guess I'd love to hear your thoughts about it in the comments below. Obviously, we'll be talking a lot about missions today, but, you know, that's the hot topic of the moment.
Now, even knowing that the launch of Alpha 3.18 was going to be rougher than normal, I think it's fair and safe to say that we were all hoping for a somewhat smoother experience than the one that you have been finding the last week.
Yeah.
Now, while I'm going to continue pointing you to the amazing efforts of our platform team, the player experience team, and especially the community team in updating you on the continuing progress through the website and socials, because, quite frankly, they're far more plugged into those things than I am and will have much better information than I ever will. We did feel it was important to acknowledge the current state of things at the top of this show, whose story was set weeks and months before. I said it on SCL, and I'll say it.
Not gonna lie, that also kind of sucks when you're preparing content. I'm not anywhere near the size of this company, right? But I have been working on videos for the last couple of weeks that obviously have been either put off or come out during this 3.18 stuff that look a little tone deaf. So keep that in mind with people who are putting out content, especially during times like 3.18. You schedule it and you don't know how it's going to go, so it's not always their fault that they're putting out something that might feel positive at a time when there's a lot to be negative about.
It again here. We don't just share in the victories with each and every one of you. We're often right there with you with the same thoughts and the same feelings about our disappointments. We're sorry for the rough launch, but I hope you can see
They're saying sorry. They don't actually do that very often. Can't wait to see the postmortem on this one.
Determination and the dedication of those people working to improve things in the improvements that are being made each and every day this week, and will continue until we get things where we want them to be. So with that said,
it's going to be a while, I think.
Since the
I think it's going to be a week or two.
Universe in December 2015, mission gameplay has been at the center of the Star Citizen experience.
That's true.
Whether that's doing someone a favor and investigating a few ICC probes, delivering an
what was the date
that
you just
2015.
Said? Oh, okay. Yeah, no, that's not true. I would say mission content in this game has really taken a step up in the last 12 months, to be honest. I think it's really 2021 that started to, or 20, gosh, time. I think it's like 2022 that really started to push missions into the forefront and show us that they're ready to start incorporating them into actual locations.
Mission gameplay has been at the center of the Star Citizen experience, whether that's doing someone a favor and investigating a few ICC probes, delivering an important package from one planet to the next,
We're trying.
or infiltrating a gang of would-be ne'er-do-wells in efforts to keep Stanton safe. Missions often push players forward into areas they might not otherwise have discovered and pull them deep into the scandalous underbelly of the star system. And over the years, through the work of the mission feature team, missions have continued to evolve into a modular system that allows for designers anywhere in any studio to create missions not in the weeks and months of 2015, but in the mere days of 2023. So on this week's Inside Star Citizen, let's learn a bit more about how that modular system works, the technical complexities that make it possible, and take a peek at some of the new modules currently in development for Alpha 319 and beyond.
Nice. Love to hear more missions with 319. I'm a little skeptical because I haven't heard any major spoilers with this episode. I would hope that something big would come out of a modular or a conversation about modular missions. So I'm hoping that people were just very quiet about it. Let's get into this.
Go ahead, you can do it.
I can do it.
Missions matter. No, missions modules. Elliot Maltby.
Mission modules, you're at scene 5.
Mission modules, Lars, scene 5. Always wanted to do that.
Same. All right, give me good vibes.
At the very beginning, the early days, everyone was just coming up with missions, right?
What we used to have to do is have a bespoke mission for every mission we had.
Someone might have built it to act this way, and then another person might have built it to act this way, but in a completely different way.
So one person would start like a delivery mission, would have to write it from beginning to end, and then some other person would have write a bounty mission from beginning to end, and then another delivery mission, again, from beginning to end. And the problem with that situation was that everyone wrote their scripts differently.
Each mission, while might have similarities,
That is so indicative of early Star Citizen. This is like when people ask why is the game the way it is. I'm actually writing a script about the star map that is kind of the same vibe. Like when they were first doing this, they literally were just trying to get stuff into the game to play. They didn't have a ton of direction. They didn't have a ton of procedure and stuff that was going on to make sure it was all cohesive. Like you can feel the difference now with development than you could back then. And I think we should keep drawing attention to that because people will say it was mismanagement, it was feature creep, it was a bunch of sitting around on their hands not doing anything. And I think honestly a lot of it was, and you could probably point some of this towards management. I don't know how games are made, but a lot of it was really just trying to get working models of stuff out to keep people busy and do things while they figured out how to actually build the game. And that's why 2016 to 2018, 2019-ish was rough.
every bit of logic was different in some way.
We are a game that constantly evolves, that constantly gets updated, so things break sometimes.
We used to get bugs back, which was like, oh, you know, that when we enter the action area for this mission, this happens,
God,
but it
that
wouldn't
is
happen
so-
on the other one, even though they're functionally doing the same thing.
Everything was built in a different way, and so everything also needed to be fixed individually.
It was a lot of
Tech that.
reworking and redoing and over again, and eventually that could not be scaled up anymore.
In a game like Star Citizen, where we really want to populate the entire universe with missions, we can't really do that. We have to come up with a different solution.
I wonder when they came to this decision or if this was always part of the plan. I like that they're letting us see this in retrospect, but I'd really like to know when they started to make this a apparent messaging in the company. Because if it was like in the last year, I'm gonna be like, guys, hold up. This should have been something you were talking about 4 years ago, 5 years ago. But we'll see.
We don't need all these people working on all these things all over the place if we can have more of a unified approach towards it.
That's where mission modules come in.
Okay. Tell me more.
So the answer to this, to fix all of those issues, is a more modular system. This is where we identify key functionality between missions and plug them all together and make it all operate under one module. This means that when we get a bug, it is likely that every other mission will experience this bug, and we can fix it. So we have modules and submodules, and there is no end to that. You can keep putting them inside of each other. But on the high level, we have what are called wrapper modules. So some of the different wrapper modules are like delivery missions.
Your typical delivery mission is pick up a box and then deliver the box in another location, which has certain variations.
So we have ones that are called multi-stop, which are essentially, here's 5 boxes, here's the pickup locations, and here's all the drop-off locations. The player can decide in what order they want. There are the linear wrapper module, which is we give you 1 box and you have to deliver that before we then give you the next box.
Infiltrate and Defend has like various subtypes and different variations that we can use depending on what the mission wants to achieve.
You've got eliminate all missions, or you've got eliminate specific missions, or even an eliminate boss mission where players must neutralize the grunts first, and then afterwards, a boss shows up, and that's the eliminate target.
And those are all the submodules of the Infiltrate and Defend type, and we're still making more. Then there's the bounty hunting modules.
Our bounty mission.
And then I imagine the goal from there is to allow an infiltrate and defend type of mission to scale to different locations, a derelict, a building interior, an outpost, a cave, a riverside. And then they can start to mix and match missions with locations within missions. Sounds like a system that they can scale. Glad they've finally gotten around to it.
Missions are quite well known. The most basic version is you accept a contract, it tells you where the bounty is, you travel there and you take it out, which then can be modified in like several variations.
It consists of the synced assassinations. It's the group bounties where you have 3 different bounties at different locations you have to get to and kill. It's the Idris event where you have to go and kill an Idris with potentially multiple people you don't know. And when the ability to capture people comes online, we'll add even more modules to help support this.
Oh,
So
that is going to be some clutch B-roll later.
we're working on now is resource collection missions. That includes salvage and mining missions.
We're even going to be adding classic things like someone wants 40 pieces of wheat and you have to go and find that and bring that back.
Yes, that, holy crap. That is exactly what I was hoping we would eventually get with the what's it called? These outposts that they're showing on the screen. That
Things like someone wants 40.
people keep telling me that I can move frames like this, and I keep forgetting that you will be able to just run a mission where you're not, it's not like, oh, bring 40 boxes of salvage to this outpost. No, literally, like, I want to see the NPCs. I want to know that they have a situation where they need food because they're out on the frontier. And I want to be the small person with the 5 boxes in the back of my starter ship that can bring that food out there and still make good money. Not that this wasn't something that they were already doing. I just like to hear them, acknowledge it.
Of wheat and you have to go and find that and bring.
Because, sorry, I'm stopping it a lot. Because what I imagine is I go and deliver that stuff, I get to that place, and then I find out that there are resource management missions I could take there. Like their power is out, or they need something delivered, something else. Kind of chaining it together, like I guess they're talking about.
Bring that back to them. All of these things we're looking into, investigating, hopefully you'll see soon. No, Reddit, that's just an example. We're not actually going to collect wheat.
Oh, what? I want to collect wheat! All right, wheat, distilled spirits, whatever it needs to be.
So let's dive deeper into submodules, and let's use one that looks relatively simple, the delivery module. The delivery module uses a wrapper called the multi-stop delivery. So when that fires, that starts something called the initialized delivery loop. The initialized delivery loop reads parameters that designers give us, say how many boxes they want to be delivered. For this example, let's say 3. So those 3 boxes would start 3 individual round deliveries. Now a round delivery will care and track the progress of a singular box and its journey from point A to point B. So then after that round delivery has booted up and it has all the information, that then goes, right, now I need to start the first part of it, which is the pickup part. So it starts the pick up or drop off module, which then will check what has a designer specified to me. Does the designer care where this is spawned? Do they want it at a locker? Do they want it at an item port? If they don't, it will choose randomly. So let's say they go, okay, I want it to be picked up from a item port, which is essentially what you know as a shelf. The item is spawned on a shelf and it sits there waiting. When the player interacts with the item and picks it up, it sends a callback back to the pickup or drop off and say, this item has been retrieved. The pickup or drop off goes, my job's complete, let me tell the round delivery. The round delivery then goes, okay, thank you for that information. I can now start the drop-off process because the box that I had been told to pick up has been picked up. It will then say, I'm going to boot the pick up or drop off again, but this time it will specify the drop off process. Once again, taking into account anything that the designer specified if they want it dropped off in a locker or at a shelving unit again. Say this time it's a locker, then what happens is it will boot up a completely different module of the delivery locker. Then that will send the request to the delivery locker and say, hey, delivery locker, you're going to expect X item from X person. The delivery locker then waits. When you put it in the delivery locker will verify that the item is the one that was actually asked for you to be delivered, and then it will once again send an event back up to the pickup or drop off going, hey, I've got the right item. That'll go, cool, thank you. Send that up to the round delivery. The round delivery will go, well, that's my box gone. I've finished. I'm going to send this up to the initialized delivery loop. The initialized delivery loop goes, that's 1 out of 3 now delivered. It will then repeat this process for the other 2 boxes that can be done in any order. Then when that completes all over together, the initialized delivery loop will go, cool, all of my things have been finished. I'm going to send it up to the multi-stop. The multi-stop will then go, that's my mission over. Complete, you get your money, and it's as simple as that. The reason we set this up like this is because it allows us to quickly plug pieces in. For example, the prison mission had to expand on the delivery system to allow you to pick up from a corpse and drop off to a satellite as a sort of upload function. What this means is we didn't have to create another delivery module to do that specific process. We created 2 ending modules of pick up corpse and upload data. Those live at the end. So after the pickup or drop off has run its course, it would just pick those 2, which means we don't have to add specific functionality to the entire module all over. It only has to be at the end.
Okay. Let's see. Elliot has presented an overly simplified version of the modular system for delivery missions, presented in a single, uninterrupted, unrehearsed take. He clearly left a bunch of stuff out, so the system should not be considered as simplistic as presented here. Yeah, I'm not going to pick that apart. There were a couple things in there, though, that the one thing that really bugged me that we heard there was that the drop-off segment, whatever you call it, is still going to recognize who it is that has the mission and is dropping it off. So to me, that means you're still not going to be able to, say, take a bunch of courier missions, get a bunch of people with you, and then divvy them out to go and deliver certain packages after you've collected them, unless maybe they are doing a if you're in the same party kind of thing or what. We don't know, because the ownership system, much like the ship roll system, still hasn't really been detailed. And clearly with these missions, they're not talking too much about ownership. So it leaves some questions as to how can you complete a modular system in a modular way how can you complete a modular mission in a modular way if the systems still don't support that modularity? I would like to be able to divvy these missions out to my friends and honestly be able to kind of assign that mission to somebody else. The other thing is, this is all still being talked about as picked by designers as opposed to by the game itself. Let's just say Quantum simulates that a pirate got attacked, or a cargo hauler got attacked by a pirate, and spawns a derelict in the area just to kind of say, hey, this is ta-da. Is the game going to decide that derelict is going to have a mission attached to it? Does the designer have to write into the game code that if a derelict appears, then they should make a mission attachment to it automatically? That is, I guess, where more of the systemic systems and teams team comes in to talk about it. I don't know. I guess it's not a huge detail, but I would like to hear more. I can't wait for them to have a Star Citizen Live about this.
So I guess you really want to hear about some of the new stuff. So
Thanks, by the way, Elliot. We appreciate your service with the explaining the goods to us.
Let's talk about salvage modules. The salvage module is currently a singular module, and what we have done is allowed for a bunch of functionality.
The most simple version is you get a contract in your mobi-glass given by a company that has salvage rights. You accept mission in a mobi-glass, and then it's going to give you a piece of salvage, and it says, well,
Imagine flying 40 million kilometers to salvage a ship.
have a piece of salvage for you, and is located at this Lagrange point.
The player is shown a location where a shipwreck can be found. So they make their way there, and it could be that another NPC is there salvaging already. Or you could have an illegal variant of the mission where you have to go there and salvage everything quickly before another player that has the contract legally shows up.
But there's going to be a timer on screen of whenever the legal owner of that salvage is going to appear, which can end up in enemies arriving because he calls them in. We've made...
So are they saying that you can get a legal salvage mission and then show up at that mission and somebody else will be illegally salvaging your find? Or are they saying is it going to be different or the same thing?
Salvage everything quickly before another player that has the contract legally shows up.
But there's
They say player. Wonder how that's going to work.
going to be a timer on screen of whenever the legal owner of that salvage is going to appear, which
how would
can
the
end
timer-
up in enemies arriving because he calls them in. We've made several submodules that allow to work with it. So the first one is spawn ship waves. So it's going to be a wave-based module that allows the designer to define what the waves are like exactly, and then they show up. And another module that we've been making that we're actually quite proud of is a chicken ship module. And that's a ship that shows up and then is either going to attack you or try to run away. And if you scare it off by either damaging it or taking too long, it's going to try and jump away. And if it does so, then
Comes
it
back.
allows the designer to define what's going to happen then. So the
Comes back with reinforcements?
most basic version would be he's going to call in his friends. They come in and then
Nice.
all of a sudden it's not you and a vulture against another vulture. It's going to be you against a retaliator bomber and 4 arrows, and you're in trouble. Now, the other option is like, okay, if you destroy it, then what happens? So we have the option of like a Carrick arrives because the company is like, well, we haven't heard from Bob in an hour. We're going to send like someone else to do the salvage, but maybe something happened to him. We're going to send something bigger. Or you basically warded off the defenders and you're now safe to salvage at your own leisure.
This kind of
Starting to build out the kind of living side of the game with that. That's cool. So this definitely sounds more like an NPC is supposed to be coming to salvage it. But they did say player, so we'll have to wait for some, I guess, additional clarification.
modular approach will allow other designers to come up with whatever they want when it comes to building missions. There could be a number of possibilities. It is only limited by their imagination. All of these sort of modifiers and options are there to sort of allow us to create different types of gameplay or different experiences with very little changing of the logic. It's a lot of just changing different properties on what's called a mission record.
Another mission module that we're working on that hasn't been revealed yet is package extraction. So it's a mission where the Ninetales have taken over another Crusader platform, and they have gotten their hands on some highly valuable Crusader prototype ship components. So Crusader really wants them back before they fall into the wrong hands. And as a result, they put out a contract, and many players all around Crusader are tasked with going to that platform and handing it to the Ninetales, essentially getting back the prototype ship components before they can be flown off-world.
Cool. See, this is what I was hoping was going to be the case with the 318 Orison missions. More outdoor urban fighting. And this also sounds kind of like, maybe not a dynamic event, but a little bit of an active player event, like almost like Korea, but it's spawned. Did he say how it's spawned? Either way, cool mission.
Them back before they fall into the wrong hands. And as a result, they put out a contract and really gotten their hands on some highly valuable
Yeah, so this sounds like a scheduled mission, but it is a group mission, kind of like the salvage and mining ones they've been talking about. So a nice addition for combat players.
back the prototype ship components before they can be flown off-world.
One thing we've been playing with is that we hooked it up to the bounty modules that already exist. So we would fire a bounty module where the player goes to a location, they kill a ship, and then we kick off a salvage module, all in one mission. So the player goes there, kills the ship, and then instantly their objectives are like, and now harvest it.
Yeah, and that's where I want to be able to divvy that off to somebody to say, I'm going to harvest it, but with this person who's flying with me. That's what I want to see now.
And then that's the completion of the mission. So at the moment, mining missions are on pause while we wait for resources from other teams, but in the meantime, we will continue to develop salvage missions, mining missions, and the overall scope of resource collection missions. So, you could hopefully see your wildest imagination of resource collecting missions come true. A reasonable expectation of resource collection missions in the future.
I hope that, kind of like how they said you'd do the Orison mission and then you'd have a box to go deliver after that, I hope that when you do like a salvage mission, maybe it might be too much to split it into 2 missions, but to say that the first part is to salvage and the second part is to then turn it in somewhere, that would be a cool way to combine missions too.
So the biggest virtue of this is it allows other designers like Guillaume from Montreal or Sam from the EU locations team to go in and be able to piece together their own custom mission.
We just send them, once a mission module is finished, all the questions that they need to fill in for this.
Their designer can go to Date Fudge, select a mission, modify a few properties that will change the behavior of the mission, whether it's the type of box they're delivering or what enemy they want you to kill. All of these modules are
Wait, gotta go back. This is an interesting page. You got a bunch of parameters for missions. Linked missions, that's pretty cool. Which missions might be linked to it? Lawful mission, yes. Mission giver record. Invitation missions. So a bunch of ways to acknowledge, like, where is this mission actually coming from? See anything reputation based? Obviously they wouldn't put it on the screen, but need more rep. Oh, mission result, reputation rewards up here. Please build that out more. Please and thank you.
Whether it's the type of box they're delivering or what enemy they want you to kill. All of these modules are intended to be stitched together in easy ways to be able to create completely new bits of content so that the content expansion can be huge.
And this is really important for when you try to build a game of the scale of Star Citizen.
They could build a mission where you go to a location to do an eliminate all, and as you're arriving there, there's a bounty target in the sky you have to take out first. As you go in and manage to kill them all, they use the item dispenser we use in Jumptown and Korea to spawn an item that when the player picks it up, it then starts a delivery mission.
That's the real win of thinking modularly.
Wait, I'm sorry, I blacked out for that.
As you go in and manage to kill them all, they use the item dispenser we use in Jumptown and Korea to spawn an item that when the player picks it up, it then starts a delivery mission.
Oh yeah.
That's the real win of thinking modularly.
Yeah, that could be how they did like the relic missions back in the CitizenCon 2021 demo, I think it was.
So that was a little look behind the scenes of what we do in the mission feature team.
The mission feature team consists of more than just the people you see here. We have a much bigger team that are building these behind the scenes to be able to bring you this new content, these new functionalities, and also help our designers internally to be able to also deliver the same thing.
This is only a fraction of things we have worked on and are working on. Obviously, as more systems come online, we are going to start making more and more modules. Salvage and mining were the most recent ones, and we've worked on those. Crafting is coming soon, so we're going to probably make some modules with that.
And we're going to continue to
I'm sorry? Was he supposed to say that? I don't know what soon means. Obviously, that's a trademark. It's a very protected term at this point by CIG, but like, that's definitely not something they've ever said. Like, they've never came out and been like, oh yeah, crafting, that's going to be coming soon. Give it a couple years, a couple updates, it's on the roadmap. Never. So we've now seen it in the monthly reports, a couple different ISCs. I think it might have been mentioned in the Star Citizen Live, and then there's that Grey Cat vehicle that people were looking at in leaks last year. Crafting, not something I would have expected at this point.
to make more and more mission modules and more things for you to play and enjoy.
Thank you very much for letting us tell you what we do. We're hopefully making everything you like, and yeah. I don't know what else to say.
Missions!
Thanks very much for watching, and I'll see you in the next episode of Inside Star Citizen.
One of you have to ask what we learned.
Next episode.
I'm not in the next episode.
You just said you are.
Now he is.
So, what did we learn this week? Well, we learned that modularity is what allows for the work of one mission to be carried over and utilized in a variety of others. That it allows for the relatively quick construction and iteration of missions by designers from all over the globe. That it is ultimately what is allowing us to currently add gameplay quickly and efficiently to new locations like the underground facilities, building interiors, and even the upcoming pyro system. And that new modules are being created along the way, like the salvage and mining parts of resource collection, as well as the investigations we've discussed previously. And just to touch on Alpha 318 once more, the team continues to tackle the troubles that have plagued launch since Friday, and you'll find continuing updates as needed at the robertsspaceindustries.com website. Now, stability has been steadily returning all week, with more and more people being able to connect in and stay in for longer durations after that, And there's been a number of absolutely critical fixes that only became known and necessary thanks to you all showing up and stressing the ever-loving hell out of the new Entity Streaming Foundation for the
That's what we
persistent
do.
universe
We
in
break
ways
things.
that, frankly, we never could on the PTU. So thank you, thank you, thank you. And thank you to all the developers who never appear on camera because, frankly, they're just too busy. It's been a frustrating week for everybody, but I'm also really proud to stand here and represent those who are working so hard to do right by the community and this project. For Inside Star Citizen, I'm Jared Huckabee. Thank you for watching. Keep an eye on the website for all
Is that a mech Pico? Is it like kaiju kind of thing going on over there?
those Alpha 318 post-launch details, and we'll see you all here next week.
Okay. Honestly, I think we didn't get in depth as much with the missions as I wanted to. And I brought up Quantum. I think this is outside of Quantum. I think they can probably apply all this stuff to that. This is more about building the missions. But the missions feature team is super important, and I'm glad we got to hear from them. And I'm glad that we got this confirmation of how missions are going to work. I think we all were hoping that they would work like this, where the different things that we do in the verse can bounce off each other. This is cool because it's telling us that we'll get more gameplay faster and more cohesively. And the experience of actually getting into the game for a new player and finding things that are just set up for you to do is good. I want to know how this blends in with the sandbox side of the game now. So hopefully we get to hear more of that. Once this feature is further along, designers have had their hands on it and we have content about it. But I'm happy to hear that they're moving forward with the mission system. This is a great example of kind of back 5 years ago, the development was much different. They clearly didn't have this kind of stuff solidified like they do now. That's why the conversation, I think, needs to change from is it a scam to more of are they doing things in the right way. I'm not going to make that call right now, but I can say it feels much better than it did several years ago. Hindsight's 2020 though. I'm just glad that they got through that and started to get these systems figured out. Either way, hope you enjoyed these thoughts. We went on for a long time, but it's a good time. Keep an eye out for another video coming out later this week, talking a little bit about the casual solo player experience in Star Citizen. New podcast came out looking at the same thing with Voidy Vids, if you like them. And I will see y'all, I guess, later this week for another one looking at tractor beams. Check it out. Catch you later.